250 years of free labor. I mean, that's a handout, right? So
which still affects the racial wealth gap today.
Right. So we're sticking our hand out to take the handout back, right? We're reclaiming what we handed out to you 250 years ago, or for over 250 years. So there is no there is no handout when you talk about reparations. That's only a matter of labeling. That's what they want to label it, to intimidate you to not claim the rights to what you deserve, right? And the thing that I think we have to understand is that as Black people, or whatever we call ourselves, like I'm okay with different terms that people want to use, African American, Black, ADOS, B1, whatever. I don't judge that, because I think we're still trying to figure that out. But what I will say is, number one, you know who you are, right? And I know who you are by listening to you talk for about 5 minutes. I can hear, like when I hear you two talk, I know where you stand, and I know we stand in a similar space on the ideological spectrum. So at that point, it doesn't matter to me what you call you. Like, you can call yourselves feminists, and I would just assume that you have a certain style of feminism that fits this space, right? Like, I literally know Black feminists who are really, really cool, but then I know Black feminists who probably want men like me killed, right? And you can know the difference, right? So
a lot of these feminists are very extreme.
Yeah. That extremism, that's a danger, right? So in terms of pursuing that, first, I think the biggest thing to understand from the beginning is that nobody's gonna cheer for you when you go claim what's yours. Like if you show up at your friend's house and your friend has a car that they drive to work every day, but you know that that's your car, and you got the title to the car. Maybe they got the car from somebody who stole it from you, so it's not their fault, but it's your car, and you can prove that it's your car. You can't expect to go reclaim that car without your friend getting a little pissed off at you, right? Your friend's going to push back. They're going to be like, look, I understand. I know how you feel, but I need this car, right? So when you're talking about America's wealth, people are entitled. They feel entitled to what they have. They pretty much say, look, we're sorry slavery happened to you. We wish it hadn't occurred. Our bad. But we need this money. Like, this is our money. Like, you can't, so you becoming more Black by claiming what is yours, in their mind, makes them less white and less powerful, right? You reclaiming your power makes them feel like you're taking their power back. And to some extent, some of that's actually true. It's hard to write a check for $15 trillion in this country and not have somebody pay the price. Somebody's got to pay. Everybody can't win. And so when you get in that situation where you have what is called, economists call that a zero-sum game, where one side wins and the other side loses. Like both sides can't have the trophy at the same time. At that point, you got to be ready to fight. If you ain't ready to really fight, then you're not going to win. If you're trying to go in there in a competitive situation and walk away with everybody being your friend, everybody loving you, everybody patting you on the back saying, good job, Black Lives Matter, we think you're great, then you're not going to win. You can't compete if you're looking for friends. You must make a decision, right? Because if somebody really doesn't respect your rights to have what is really yours, then that person was never your friend in the first place. So a lot of these people who are not our friends, they're our fake friends. They'll go out and they'll say, well, we believe Black Lives Matter and we think Black people are great. They say these things because it doesn't cost them anything. The question is, are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? That's how you can prove to me that you're my friend.
Exactly. And these parties, I would say me personally, I am a registered Republican, but I do, and I have my reasons, but I do criticize both parties, and I don't see either party at the moment providing results.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, like they should be, And it's just like, again, these parties are, they kind of forget about us. They get loud about us in our community every 4 years, but then they forget about us because they know that we're starting to like open our eyes, and so they go and they focus on other racial groups and try to get results for those groups instead of us. Like basically, they just talk and say they're going to do for us, but then they don't do for us, and it's just it's frustrating for me.
Right. I think where we can all come to solidarity, like together, just as Black Americans. And you're right, as far as like, you know, calling us Black. I have no problem with calling us Black. I'm not that deep into it where I think we should be called Black. However, I am starting to notice that the reason they kind of put the term Black on just all of us in general is to kind of group us all together as if we don't have our own separate issues. So when people look at the group ADOS, for instance, I think, or ADOS, whatever you want to say.
FBA or whatever.
Yeah, FBA. You see all these terms because what it is Black Americans realizing that we are a specific group, and we actually are the specific group that built this country. And then you'll see people, you know, you'll see like foreign shills on the media, MSNBC, you'll see them say that we're bots. This is basically to erase us. And this is basically to kind of like misinform people and think that we are fake people. No, it's Black Americans every single day waking up and realizing not only are we the original Americans, but if you go a step deeper, and I talk about this a lot on my lives and just on my social media, we are the Native Americans, the people that think Native Americans are the indigenous people. We are those indigenous people. So it's basically an erasure of our history. They now label us as Black. We don't have a specific like group that can call for reparations, like Jewish people, Native Americans.
Even the Japanese they've given the Japanese reparations because I guess what happened with the camps, they put them in the camps. It's like, okay, they've done reparations to Native Americans, even the Jews. So, you know.
But when it comes to Black people, there's all these questions.
But it's like, forget about it. Like, it's so far in the past. You need to start acting like victims, this and that. Which I understand. We're not necessarily trying to act like victims. You know, we are victors. But at the same time, you have to recognize, okay, there is a wealth gap that has occurred between Black Americans and, you know, other races because of what occurred to our people in this country.
Right. Over that, like, we're just lazy. And you know, I don't have the victim mindset. I feel like we are constantly overcoming these hurdles. We can build wealth. We can do the best for our community. But as you can see, that's not going to just erase this racial wealth gap. It's not going to just erase the history that's been done. I tell some of my white friends, you know, a lot of times your family is benefiting off of slavery, especially people from the South, and they don't always realize that. But I'm always kind of like making people aware of the fact that the racial wealth gap is not just because Black Americans, you know, haven't been working hard. There's a lot of things in our history that I feel like people don't want to speak on. They don't speak about how drugs and guns were placed in our communities. A lot of people don't understand
the war on drugs.
Before the crack era, like there was people, or Black people had both parents in the home more than white people or any other race. That's not talked about. It's like a lot of times we're just talked about, or we're shown in the media as lazy people that just want a handout. Reparations is not a handout. So
even with the welfare state, even before the welfare state, a lot of our families were together, but that basically contribute to the state that we're in now.
Yeah, I think y'all made a lot of really good points, and it's really one of those things where I'm hopeful that, you know, that your generation is smarter than mine, right? And the reason I believe that you are, and the reason I believe that is because it took me a really long time to realize that the people that I thought really cared about my situation actually did not care. You know, the people that I thought were my friends really wasn't my friends. You know, and the reason I say that is because if you're not my friend and I think you're my friend, I'm going to always be confused and frustrated. I'm going to say, well, gosh, he's my friend, but he stole my money. Why would my friend steal my money? Well, because he really wasn't my friend. I just thought he was, right? Or he's my friend, but I got sick and went to the hospital and I called him and he didn't even come visit me. Well, that's because he's not your friend, right? If you realize he's not your friend, then everything makes sense, right? But if you think he's your friend and you hold on to that idea because maybe you grew up with everyone constantly telling you he's your friend, he's your friend, he's your best buddy, then you're going to be confused, right? So here's my point, right? We grow up as Black people raised to believe that America is our friend, right? And that, and more specifically, white people as a collective, not this is not anti-white, but that white people as a collective really care about us, and that collectively they are our friends. Like, meaning not so much that they can get along with us. Like, I don't think that most white people have a problem living next to a black person, working with a black person. That type of racism doesn't even bother me that much because I don't really care what you think about me. But really, we really believe that if we convince them and explain to them and help them understand and educate them, that they're going to say, oh, I get it now. Okay, yeah. You guys really do deserve reparations because, oh my God, look at what you went through. This is so bad, right? And some of them do that, right? Sometimes you run into some like super woke white people who really can deprogram themselves from the brainwashing they've received since they were children and really understand what's going on. In my experience, that's like few and far between. It's a very, very small percentage of people. At best, you might get, say, white liberals who kind of pretend to be your friend but aren't really, right? Trish, you know that, right? I think that's why I see. I can tell you know that because I've seen your post, and I think it's brilliant. And so what I think as Black people we have to kind of realize is that not first of all, it's a great idea that we're separating and distinguishing ourselves with terms like whether it's ADOS, FBA, or Native Black Americans. All those terms kind of mean the same, right? It's splintered, but the only reason FBA is splintered away from ADOS as a movement is just because ADOS has what I think is terrible leadership. The leaders are just, kind of selfish and crazy or ridiculous because they should have partnered with the FBA people, and then you wouldn't be competing. Why are you competing, right? So they're all kind of the same thing. It's basically saying, as a Black American, I built this country. My ancestors did this. You owe us a debt. The problem you have, though, is that our reparations battle is different from the Japanese and the Jewish community because that's like the difference between somebody owing $100 and somebody owing $1 million. If somebody owes $100, they'll pay it, because it's the right thing to do. But if they owe $1 million and they've only got $800,000 in the bank, you're going to have to force them to pay. You're going to have to garnish their check. Like you might have to damn near take them to jail to make them pay that amount or put the pressure on them, right? If you don't put pressure on them, then they're not going to do it, right? Because it's just too much. The federal government's debt level is about $27 trillion. The annual revenue of the entire federal government is about $3 trillion a year. So think about this, right? $27 trillion in debt, $3 trillion a year in government revenue. That's like a person graduating from college and they have $270,000 in student loan debt, but they make $30,000 a year. That person's screwed. Like they're not going to pay that debt. They can't. And then if you throw another debt on top of that, you say, oh, by the way, you owe another $140,000. You're not going to get that person to pay voluntarily, right? You're not going to get them to pay by just being their friend and being polite. You have to be a little bit rude, right? You have to find something that you have that they need, and you must withhold that thing until they pay you, right? That's how they like when you get these like really bad baby daddies who don't want to pay child support. They don't pay because it's the moral obligation, right? They're not moral people in some cases, not in all cases, but a lot of times you got to really like go in there and take his check. You got to take his passport. You might have to take his driver's license. You got to put that heat on him, right? So here's what I think, right? At least this is the position I take. When I talk to my white liberal friends who say, I care about Black people, I think I really want Black people to do well, whatever. I say, okay, great. Well, then you support reparations. Well, I don't really support reparations because I don't really understand. Well, if you don't support reparations, then you're not my friend, right? The politicians will flatter you. They'll paint Black Lives Matter on the street. They'll talk about your voting rights all day. The reason they talk about voting rights, by the way, is because it puts them in power. Voting rights don't benefit you. Voting rights benefit them, right? Because when they get in office, they don't take care of you. They take care of the people who gave them money, right? So they do a lot of talking because that's an easy way to distract you. So what you have to be able to do is say, no, I'm focused on one thing, the money. Right? They say, well, no, we're going to have a Martin Luther King celebration every year, and you can come to the King Day dinner. No. The money. No, we're going to put
honestly, because what is that going to do? Like having those celebrations, what kind of results does that provide?
I mean, they gave us murals in places, and I talked about this. They gave us murals in places in DC, which were literally known for being gentrified. You know, and a lot of people in DC are suing the city or like the area because a lot of them Black people are being pushed out. So you have to question. You have to question why are they, having us march and painting Black Lives Matter on streets that are literally gentrified. And then you can even go a step further to say that some of those white liberals that were marching with us, were living in those cities where they have pushed Black people out and it's become gentrified. So again, it comes down to, what are you offering? And a lot of times it's absolutely nothing. Charisse, when I first met Charisse and I saw the whole MAGA hat thing, I didn't necessarily agree with it. But as of now, I personally, I feel like as far as conservative values, which is not always equal to Republican, that's what you have to understand. Because a lot of Black Americans, whether you guys know it or not, we are socially and economically conservative. We can do a whole nother video on that. Yep. But I feel like, for the simple fact that there was prison reform, tell me when did all of a sudden Black Americans not care about our people being released from the prison system that these people have put us in the prison system, the people that we were supporting as a whole at large? It didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think what a lot of people are realizing is you can't just be so quick to put a label on something, because there's layers to these things. There's layers to how politics work. There's layers to the people that smile in our faces and do absolutely nothing for us. I recently just saw the Black Lives Matter post where they were like, it's been 32 days and Kamala and Biden, that was funny, not reached out to them. There's been other celebrities that claimed that they were gonna keep them in check, I guess. Yeah, like they were gonna hold them accountable, and now they're not reaching out to them. So I mean, this is everything coming full circle, and a lot of these people that supported them, and it's not like I'm talking down. If you're a liberal out there, that's fine. I mean, we're trying to come to solutions here. We're not so much trying to tangibles, exactly. Like, what are you giving? And it's very interesting that you say the debt is so high. I thought the same thing until I saw the trillions that they're pulling out just for federal funding. So I mean, you have to wonder sometimes, like, where's the priority? I think as far as ADOS, the group, one thing that I do feel like was very strategic that they did, Yvette Carnell, I do look up to her. I think that the whole FDA ADOS beef, I think that it's very problematic. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I don't like the beef either. It was completely unnecessary. Yeah, Yvette.
Because we're all the same people group at the end of the day.
Right.
All have the same. Personally, I believe that we all have the same goal, right? That we're trying to reach. So, but that's just leadership. That's not beefing. I don't necessarily think that members are beefing. I'm not beefing with. Not me. I don't know. I'm not really beefing with anybody.
I think that's right. I think that you got to find a way to realize who needs to be your enemy, who needs to be your ally. And one thing that I would encourage you, never make this mistake of allowing your personal feelings or your ego to get in the way of the bigger purpose. That's what it was. I agree with you 100%. I know the leaders of both of those movements. I've worked with Tariq Nasheed a lot. Yvette Carnell, I gave her start pretty much. I helped her build her first blog and all that stuff. And so it kind of saddened me that, it got to this weird point where people were fighting over stupid stuff. It's like a man he's frustrated at his boss. So he comes home and he beats his wife. And it's like, why would you be fighting your wife? She loves you. Go fight your boss. Don't fight your wife, right? And so I think that we have to realize that, that fighting people that should be natural allies, you really are, excuse my friend, you're shitting where you eat. You don't shit where you eat, and I think that as Black people, moving forward to your point, I love what you said about the fact that we are conservative. We have conservative values. We believe in family. We believe in personal responsibility. We want, like, the Black men, real Black men love Black women. Real Black women love and respect Black men. All these things, right? All these things are like, those are our values. We're the first ones up in church, right? So the reason we became liberals pretty much was because liberals tend to be connected to the disenfranchised groups, and we were a disenfranchised group, and they saw the connection with us as a disenfranchised group as their opportunity to pursue bigger agendas. Like, okay, we want to push forward with LGBT. We want to tear down capitalism. Whatever their other agendas were. I'm not even judging that.
The civil rights movement. Just to point out, MLK said, "I fear I'm leading my people into a burning building." So
Yes.
this is where it comes in that we have to understand more history, and actually some of his later speeches talked about reparations for us, before he got killed. And a lot of his a lot of his family that are still alive today are Republicans. You have to think about this. Like, this isn't just happening for no reason, guys. We're quick to put a label on things, and we're quick to, say if this person's conservative, they're just a Trump supporter. Like that is. I literally said,
I've been called everything in the book.
Honestly, and the funny thing is, ironically, those people are being the coons because they're keeping us divided. They're keeping us on the side of white people that have shown they're not doing anything for us, not even the lesser evil. You know what I'm saying? So it's just very ironic. This girl, I just want to point out, she said if they took away our student loans. So I've said this before, how the liberals are like, they're going to erase student loan payments. What I try to get Black Americans to understand is that is not doing anything specifically for Black Americans, because if anything, it widens the wealth. The racial wealth got even more. We already are discriminated against when it comes to housing, things like that. So really, that's kind of giving other groups the upper hand on us. That is not, unless they come out and say, Black Americans, all your debt is wiped out, that's when you should get happy. And she just said it. She was like, if our student loans were wiped out, I mean, hey, that would at least give us like a leg on, just gaining wealth for our communities, but we're not getting any of that. We're not getting any stipends. I mean, and ADOS might be mad at me for saying this, because I know they're very specific on cash reparations, but really it's tangibles at the end of the day. So when a lot of Black people say, oh, reparations will never happen, the reason I take that personally and the reason I get so mad is, let's just say worst case scenario, right? They never gave us reparations. If that consistently becomes what we all are calling for, whether you're Republican, whether you're conservative, Black Americans calling for reparations for our ancestors who built this land, I mean, that's going to get kind of hard to ignore. They're going to have to shoot for the moon, land on the stars. You have to apply pressure. You have to apply pressure.
And it's just like, it saddens me, because I don't care if you're a Black Democrat, a Black liberal. Okay, if you're not something out, of course I care about that, but I don't care if you identify as that, as long as you come together with me and try to figure out something that we can do for our community in order to get something back. I'm all for that. I'm all for unifying with the other side, because we have to come up with a common goal for our people in order to get some type of tangibles, in order to get something passed, in order to get something for us, for our people.
Yeah, I think
somebody.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
Oh, no, just really quick. Someone keeps saying, I can save myself. And this is sometimes what you hear from Black people, like, I can save myself. I don't need the government. So when it comes to those type of people, what I say is, when you were given the stimulus check, did you look at the check and throw it away and say, I can help myself? That's just, it's not realistic. Again, I'm not the type of person that feels like we have to have a consistent handout. I'm not for welfare, because I feel like, if anything, welfare has set us back. I'm not for socialism, because people don't understand. There's this quote that I go by. It's like, mice eat the cheese and they die from like mouse traps, because they don't understand why the cheese is free. So I feel like in certain areas, a handout is not good. But again, reparations is different. So we have to stop with this narrative that I could save myself. We don't need reparations. At the end of the day, that makes no sense, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be into politics at all, it has to be for an exchange. Politics is an exchange. Some people have forgotten that. Some people are acting like politics is like a tug of war. Like, I'm for this, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican. It's not for that, you guys. It's an exchange.
It's advocating something to get something back.
Exactly. So whoever is giving more, you have to withhold your vote, and you have to play this strategically. This is not just, I don't need this. I mean, I don't know where people kind of got that narrative, but it's getting old and it's getting tired.
Well, I think that you're right on point with that. First of all, to your point about politics being an exchange, that makes perfect sense. It's supposed, that term quid pro quo. I explained it to my 13-year-old daughter. I was explaining to her how quid pro quo works, and we use that term a lot in the house because it's natural, it's human nature, it's what everybody else kind of understands. And so, for Black folks, our history is one where we're used to giving something up and getting nothing back. So when you saw a lot of people bragging about the fact that we saved America or we saved the Democrats. And they're saying, thank you, black women, for saving us. Because they didn't thank the black men. They didn't thank the brothers. Because a lot of brothers were like, we ain't doing this. I didn't vote for Biden or Trump. I voted Libertarian. But and it took a lot for me to even get to that point because I wasn't going to vote at all. And you're not going to tell me what the fuck to do ever. Right? It's not going to happen. But I think that it's we're kind of used to that, right? And if you read Powernomics, with Dr. Claudia, or actually, I'm sorry, he puts it in Black Labor, White Wealth. That's his other book. In Black Labor, White Wealth, he talks about meritorious manumission in slavery, where one of the best ways for a slave to be rewarded was saving a white person. So if you saved a white person, you were the big man, you were the big woman, like you got celebrated. Like one guy saved white people from a slave revolt, like he snitched on some slaves that were trying to revolt. And they put a statue of him in the center of town. They gave him his freedom, gave him some money, and gave him a statue. And the statue was there for 100 years, right? So the best way to be celebrated as a black person is to go save a white person because it's almost like serving God because they position themselves as your God, as or your parents, right? So we we don't understand the history of this sort of weird excitement we get when we do something that does nothing for us, but it benefits somebody else who doesn't care about us. And process it this way. It's very fascinating. You saw that people had more vitriol. So look at two guys, Ice Cube and Joe Biden. So Joe Biden incarcerates more black men than any president in the history of this country, right? He spends $10 billion building dozens of prisons, putting 100,000 cops on the street. Oh, and by the way, he also passed that. He pushed forward the legislation that says that you can never go bankrupt on your student loans. You can never take them off of your credit history. You can't. You can take everything else off, but you can't take student loans off. Joe Biden passed that bill. I don't know if y'all know that, by the way.
What?
Yes, Joe Biden. Go look it up. He was the driving force behind that bill. And so anyway, let's go. So Ice Cube, Joe Biden incarcerates more black men than any person in American history. Now, a lot of kids, especially a lot of young people your age, don't have fathers because a lot of their daddies did time in prison or got locked up in the system back in like the 1990s, back when Tupac and guys like that were in their 20s. Okay. Then you get Ice Cube who steps up and he's like, we want something for black people, right? He pulls together a team of experts, right? I talked to Ice Cube a lot of people did. And he goes in and he comes up with this beautiful plan written by experts, not by him. He wasn't a rapper that just wrote it on the back of an envelope. This was planned and prepared. And he says, we want something specifically for black people. And the whole time when Ice Cube was going on all these shows, and I was talking to him a little bit, and I was watching him on the shows. I don't trust celebrities that much. I'm gonna tell you the truth, because they kind of come in and they fuck things up sometimes. They jump in because they think it's trendy, and then they say stuff, and you're like, oh Lord, come on, man. You got 1 million, you got 10 million Twitter followers. Don't say that stupid shit, right? Cube hit every note perfectly. I watched him. I listened to him talk. I said, my God, this is as if I was on there. I'm so happy that this man with this influence is doing what he's doing, right? So Joe Biden incarcerates more black men than any person in American history. Ice Cube stands up as one of the few entertainers in the last 30 years to say, we need something specifically for black people. Everybody has all this forgiveness for Joe Biden, this love for Joe Biden. I mean, I'm sorry. Y'all get offended if I cuss sometimes. I apologize for that. I hope that's not okay. So you're fucking calling him Uncle Joe? Are you serious? So you're calling him Uncle Joe, and then Ice Cube, they're attacking him like he's the devil. Like, how are you attacking the person that wants to help you and celebrating the person who spent his whole life trying to hurt you? That's about as backward as you can get. So I think that we have a mental illness issue. We have a mental health problem here. Like when you talk about white supremacy, we talk about white people having white supremacy and white supremacist groups. No, a lot of white supremacists are black people. A lot of black people really believe that white people are better, that they're smarter, that getting their validation.
They're literally brainwashed. I think
yes,
it's a mental illness. Like they look up to these people so much and think they're going to get something when they're not.
Yeah, that's why they'll look up to Dr.
Oh, I lost you for a second. Say that again.
They'll look up to Dr. Fauci before they will look up to Dr. Sebi. They used to talk a lot about Dr. Sebi, and Dr. Fauci is like, he'll say something like, listen to the experts. It's Stockholm syndrome that we have. It's delusion. I've been feeling like I was in the Twilight Zone all year. I actually went to an HBCU. I went to Hampton University, and there's people that, you know, consider themselves to cancel me because I spoke on how racist Joe Biden was. And they're like, you know, gaslighting me, Trump supporter. And then I would say at least Trump is freeing prisoners, you know, like that's what I feel. He's freeing prisoners, guys. Like, it's of no emotions, you know, I'm happy about that. I have cousins that are still, you know, affected by Joe's crime bill. I have people in my family that are still affected by Joe's crime bill. This is the things that people will look at you and they'll act like don't matter. This is history matters, y'all. And that's what I'm realizing the divide is. The people that are understanding and walking away from the Democratic Party, and specifically, you know, the reason I'm not mad at Black independents, like conservatives, like Republicans, I'm not mad because at the end of the day, you are not on the original plantation. And I hate to say that like that, but it really is starting to look like an actual plantation, the way that people don't want to leave. They want to defend their masters. They want to have Stockholm Syndrome. To the original party that has consistently not done anything for us and screwed us over, this is actually, it has to be a mental illness.
Yes.
It has to be.
Yeah, that was a perfect description. You're right. I mean, it's it really does. I mean, when people say the term Democratic plantation, it's like, I mean, there's so many parallels with a plantation or pimping, you know, the way a pimp might operate. I mean, it's, you know, because, you know, if you look at the way pimping works, a pimp tends to work best with people that have low self-esteem. If you have low self-esteem, you're scared. If you're not very smart, you know, if you're easily, you know, if I can easily scare you and intimidate you into doing what I want you to do, then you're going to follow me because you don't know what to do and you don't have any options, and you're looking up to me despite the fact that I might be abusing you. There's this constant threat that if you deviate, then you're going to be punished. And so the Democratic Party, unfortunately, positions itself almost like a pimp of the Black community. Like, we're not really here to take care of you. If you try to leave, bad things are going to happen to you. If I don't love you, nobody else will. And so, ladies, watch out for that. If a man ever talks like that, don't mess with a man like that. Seriously, like that. That's what fathers are supposed to do. We're supposed to give you love, unconditional love and support, so you don't need that from a bad person, because people will play you on that, right? So basically, the Democratic Party knows what type of Black person to appeal to. They're looking for the Black person who isn't going to ask too many questions, who doesn't have a lot of confidence, who truly believes that without the support and white folks taking care of them, that they can't survive, right? Who is going to just do something because that's what their mama or their grandma did or what their pastor told them to do. And they kind of run away from people that are smart. Like, so for example, when Charlemagne the God interviewed Joe Biden, that was a huge mistake on Joe Biden's part, because Charlemagne is not a stupid guy. Charlemagne is another guy. The two guys I got a chance to talk to a lot about this political stuff is Charlemagne and Ice Cube. So when Joe Biden's asking when Charlemagne's asking Joe Biden these questions, I was really excited because we had talked about the questions I thought that he should ask him. And I didn't know what he's going to ask. I didn't know who else Charlemagne talked to, but I said, ask him about this. I think you should ask about that. Ask about that. And he asked those things, and you saw what happened. Biden buckled like a bitch. Biden got really angry and frustrated, right? Almost like the way a pimp a pimp is like, what do you mean you're going back to school? Why are you hanging out with those? What do you mean it's a women's empowerment group? Pimp doesn't want, the pimp does not want his hoes to be getting empowered, right? He doesn't want them to start asking questions like what do you mean where the money went? It ain't none of your damn business, right? Like, so that's what it is. Black people are starting to ask questions. Black people are getting empowered. Black people are starting to become a more elevated, educated voter base, and it scares the hell out of them. I mean, the idea that
that's why they're trying to now get their voter base
literally. That's what they're trying to go and pander to other racial groups, which yes. I don't want them to pander to us either. But this is why they're basically pushing us aside. Like, they're doing a little bit of pandering because they know some Black people are still gonna vote for them either way. So they're trying to do a little pandering to like keep our vote, but at the same time they know that they're losing our vote. So then they're trying to pander to other people groups, and they are trying to like give those other people groups results that they need instead of us, because we're actually waking up and seeing, okay, you've been playing us like a fool all these years. You haven't done anything for us.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's why I try to tell people, when it comes to like illegal immigration and them trying to give these people voting rights, we're so I feel like Black people we're so nice to a negative extent, because what we'll do is we will we will fight for other groups, not even realizing it's hurting us, not even realizing it's hurting us. And no other group does that for us. When the tables are turned, when there's no other group, when there's a specific Black issue, tell me if the brown people in the Black and brown coalitions, if they go as hard for us. The answer is no.
It's always us going hard for other people. But we need to be going hard for our own people because we haven't gotten the results that we deserve.
Yeah. So it's easy to call us, xenophobic because we're now, excluding ourselves or kind of realizing ourselves as a specific group. It's not xenophobic, you guys. It's called waking up. It's called being in this country. And I've been alive for 4 different elections now. You have to think about it. Our generation, we haven't really had that many elections where we're old enough to kind of get what's going on. And I feel like as each 4 years goes by, we're going to have to kind of understand the elephant in the room is that we are supporting people and we are not getting anything back. However, whichever way you want to paint that, I feel like some people will go against you or people like us for speaking out against the Democratic Party because in a way it's like, it's easier to blame people like us than to blame the actual people that are hurting you.
The actual people that you guys are thinking that are your heroes and are your saviors. The white liberals who act like white saviors get on my nerves.
They have.
Because it's like they're feeling like so haughty and so we can actually save you guys that they're playing us like a fool.
Look, when Chelsea Handler felt comfortable enough to tell people
that tells you something.
to tell people like 50 Cent that he wasn't Black, when you have people like Joe Biden comfortable enough to tell Black people they are not Black for voting him when he has done so much to our specific people, Black Americans, that's why I don't understand, especially if you're a foreigner, if you're of any other descent, I think it's even more disrespectful for you to tell us Black Americans that we need to vote for people like Joe Biden and Kamala, because number one, there's a lot of Black Americans that are just indoctrinated. They just don't know their history. But when you don't even care to look into our history and you are from another culture, there is no way that I would be able to go over to Nigeria and tell them to vote for someone that has put them down. There is no way I could go over to Jamaica and tell them to vote for someone that has put them down. And that's
for generations
and years, and still have your family caught up in the system. And then whether it's a person that is known as the most racist president in history in the media, you have to understand the single fact alone that he was freeing Black people from this system, people that were calling for years for Obama and Biden to pardon them, we're not even getting calls back. Like that, we're getting released. I don't care what your feelings are. It's facts over feeling. It is tangible.
That's what I'm going to say. Tangible.
So am I saying that I will vote for every single Republican? No, I'm not saying that. But we have to be able to realize, what are we getting from this situation, y'all? It's not so much about what we feel. It's not so much about what we feel about the next person in these titles, because at the end of the day, guess what? The party that was supposed to be consistently loyal to us and supposed to, help us and be our friends, they are consistently putting us in a worse situation. Not a little bit other people, not a little bit better, not a little bit worse, decades worse, back. We're farther back. Come on.
Yeah.
What definitely matters, and what the number one thing that matters is tangibles and results. Those policies, like I said, okay, yes, I do support Trump, and I have gotten a lot of heat for that. But I supported him because I saw those tangibles, and I saw the things that he passed, his policies, that basically aligned with my views and what I believed in, and the stuff that I was calling for, that I wanted for my people. So yes, call me a coon if you want to call me Uncle Tom. But at the end of the day, I was supporting somebody that was providing policies and tangibles for me and my people. So.
And here's the thing, right? I think, I see some of the heat you get, for being a Trump supporter. And I don't think you have to explain that to anybody. And it's not their obligation to agree. It's not your obligation to go with the crowd. That's what freedom looks like, right? People always talk about how, your ancestors died for you to have the right to vote. My ancestors did not die. They did not die for me to vote. They did not die for me to be a Democrat. They died for me to be free. Freedom means I can be right. Freedom means I can be in any party I want. It also means I can vote if I want to. If I don't want to vote, I don't have to. And so this idea that it's sacrilegious to not vote or to vote, anything other than Democrat, that is mind control. That was a deliberate plan to tell you that you have no option. So you have to ask yourself, are you really free? Did slavery really end? The slavery didn't end. We have slavery by another name in a multitude of contexts all throughout this country. And what you're onto is absolutely correct. So to me, the next step of that is for you to really listen to yourself, right? Like really hear that, right? Because what happens is we'll be in this, and I still do this sometimes, you will be in this alternate reality where you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone and you'll be like, why doesn't everybody else see this? Like, this is crazy. What's wrong with these people?
I've
right?
been like that all year.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to stop and realize, no, you're right. You're right. And a lot of these people are just wrong. And you have to be okay with that. You can roll with that. Right. So I think, like, for example, a simple strategy for Black people that can be pursued that would allow us to focus on what matters and achieve our goal is to start with some basic ideas. Number one, when you're looking at politics, be one, Black first. That's it. Like, so that means I'm Black before I'm a Democrat or Republican. We're Black before, I'm a feminist or not a feminist, Black before we're LGBT, not LGBT. We're just Black first, right? That allows you and I, all of us, to get on the same page and have common ground to say that no matter what part, no matter who you voted for, it's okay. You still my cousin. I still love you to death. We still gonna
right,
eat.
like other races are able to do. You don't ever see any Asians in this
They're not Asian anymore.
Yeah, this Asian girl came to my inbox this year just for everything I was saying about the Democratic Party, and she was like, what do we do? Well, like, what do you want us to do? And I tried to explain to her, well, you can't really consider us to be minorities, because that's what she said. She asked me about minorities, and I said, you can't really group Black people in the pool of minorities, because for one, the Asian community, I explained to her, whether you guys vote or not, you guys stick together. So economically, if you think about it, Asians, they can vote. That's why you don't see Asians like, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're a Biden supporter, divide and conquer. We're the only race that is divide and conquer, like steadily turning on each other, canceling each other. Cancel is white culture, you guys. Whether you realize that or not, cancel is a Caucasian mindset. Like, Black people only cancel each other. Tell me a white person that we've canceled. We won't cancel Dr. Fauci. We won't cancel Joe Biden.
What white said we're not Black if we don't vote for him?
What white people have we canceled? We only cancel each other, and then we claim that we want the best for ourselves. We're steady canceling each other. We're steady finding one little problem with each other. Oh, they're canceled. They're done. And that is literally mind control that a white person has actually taught us to stay divided and conquer and never get a solution. And you have the people that are doing this calling other people coons for thinking outside the box. Somebody just commented and they said, Uncle Tom versus Sambo. So I think this is very interesting. And I forget where I saw this quote, but it's basically like the people calling people leading the Democratic Party coons. It's ironic because Uncle Tom was actually the hero of the story. He was trying to wake his people up. It's Sambo was the sellout. Sambo that ran to the slave masters and said, hey, this guy is leaving a plantation. That's really what they are. It's Sambos. But they think they find some type of power in just calling someone a coon because you know why? That's easier than doing the research. That's easier than figuring out why we're stuck in the same situation since Jim Crow. That's easier than picking up the of a book and realizing that even during Black Wall Street, we were Republicans. The Republicans Party was started by Black people. The parties never switched. So what's easier to do than figure that out or to have to, come out of that like psychosis or like whatever type of mindset it is to just keep you depending on people to show you over and over again that they don't give a damn, whatever that is. It's easier to not question that. And I think that's what some people are avoiding. They're avoiding truth. They're avoiding questioning what's real. They're avoiding getting to those solutions, and they would rather be comfortable. So what do? Oh, I'm Democrat. I'm Black. I'm Democrat. You're not for Democrats. You're a coon. You're not for Joe Biden. Kamala, you're a coon. Even though these people have consistently hurt us, consistently set us back, it's crazy. And you talk about like the Twilight Zone. I've been feeling like that all 2020. I kid you not. I will wake up some morning like 4 or 5 a.m. like, wait a minute, what don't they get? What is not clicking? I swear.
People are not awake. And this just all goes back to how slavery and things of that nature has kind of hurt us because we are so quick to turn on our own. We don't see how, the effects of that thing, what it has done to our people. And it's just sad.
Well, I think that it's That's the challenge of leadership, right? When you're trying to lead, which both of you are leaders, I can tell. Leadership really means really trying to figure out solutions on your own, right? You have to take in a lot of information, process it, and sometimes you're going to come to a conclusion that people don't understand around you. And so sometimes you lead and you go in a certain direction, and sometimes people follow you, sometimes they don't. And sometimes they sit back and wait and see what happens, or they just sit and watch you and they don't understand, and then later on they figure it out. And so, I think leadership requires a certain type of conscientiousness where you got to kind of say, my morals are telling me to go in that direction. I'm going to march in that direction, even if I got to die on the battlefield by myself. Like Sean King, for example, when he challenged Obama on the whole defund the police thing, I don't know if you saw that. He lost about 250,000 followers off of that. And I respected that because I said, okay, that's good. He's showing leadership, right? He doesn't give a shit. He's like, fine, go. This is what's going to happen. And so because the thing about it, the reason Black people get screwed politically is because they don't respect you and they don't respect your leaders. They know your leaders are a bunch of Sambos who will sell out their whole community for a bucket of chicken. They're trying to get jobs in the White House. They're trying to sit up under Joe Biden's testicles and be his little brother, right? That's what they want, right? That's not leadership, right? That's not respected. The real leaders in your community are in your community. The real leaders in your community don't get invited to sit with the president because the president doesn't want to sit next to Black people that are really going to challenge him in a certain way. And to your point, here's the thing. You talked earlier about immigration. Immigration policy, if you look it up in Powernomics, immigration policy was specifically structured to dilute the Black population. Their biggest fear, the biggest white fear that white people had after they saw the Haitians revolt and stuff like that, is they said, oh my God, we got too many Black people here. So they started immigrating as many white people as possible. And they had a hierarchy. They said, if you're from England, then you can definitely get in. You're from Ireland, we might let you in. Italy, we might let you in, right? Then you get to the bottom, they said Africans, zero. We are not letting anybody in from a country with Black people, only white people. So what happened through the years is they let in a ton of white people. Again, no Black people, no Africans, none of that. Then they started letting in a lot of people from Latin America. At the turn of the century, they were a very small percentage of the population. We outnumbered them tremendously. Now they outnumber us. It's only going to get bigger and stronger. So eventually they're just going to give up. They're going to let go and say, we can't manipulate Black people anymore. They're no good to us. Screw them, right? But that's okay because as a community, we have to figure out how to come together and how to really understand this game we're playing. You're really playing a game where you're in a competitive space. And in a competitive space, nobody really loves you. Like nobody really gives a shit about you. They just pretend, right? They only coddle you with loving and affirming language because you didn't get that from somewhere else. You're supposed to get it from your mother. You're supposed to get it from your father. You're supposed to get it from your community. And then you can show up to the negotiating table and say, look, let's get past all this, whether you like me or don't like me. I don't give a shit if you like me. I like myself. I need you to tell me where the money is, right? And so
that's what it is. It's like people wanting acceptance over anything. Like you want to be accepted by these white people more than you want them to actually give your community something. And that's where I can't agree. I mean, I like what Chris Rock said. I don't know if you saw his interview with Noah. What is the guy? Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah, yep.
I really like what he said, and I can't really remember his exact words, but basically he was like, ever since like even in the civil rights era, it was about us being able to sit at white tables. At the end of the day, he could care less about sitting at white tables. We want to know, what are you doing for us? We were better. We could have been fine by ourselves. We just wanted access to education. We wanted access to wealth. We wanted access to all these things. But instead, we got integrated with people that didn't care about us, really kind of were in a worse situation economically because we were no longer sticking together, having our resources together. But anyone out there, just go look at Trevor Noah and Chris Rock, because Chris Rock, he took the words out of my mouth. And that's honestly one of the best things I've ever seen Chris Rock said. I don't really agree with but I don't agree with everything that he says, but I feel like he was spot on. I had so much respect for that interview. Even Trevor Noah, which I have my own kind of opinions about sometimes, but that's a whole nother story. But I even feel like he was kind of taken aback because he was schooled basically on the fact that we are not pushing for acceptance anymore. that doesn't matter to us. Some people, sadly, that matters. They want a pat on the back and to be told, "Oh, black man, you are so beautiful," or "Black girl, you are so beautiful." You know what I mean? And that's not what we need. We don't need to be told how valuable we are, because we know that we need fixing. We need for things tangible, facts. Like that's
well, you know what? The reason they integrated you is not because they loved you. They integrated you because they saw something valuable that they wanted to obtain. They integrated you because they integrated you because in capitalism is a it's an ugly system. And if you don't understand the game that's being played, it goes back over 1,000 years back in Europe. Back 1,000 years ago, the way the system worked was you had 90% of the population busting their butts, working themselves into an early grave just to take care of the top 10%, the nobility or whatever, right? Capitalism's the same way. That's why you have the 1%, the top 10% that are doing extremely well, and the rest of America's kind of struggling. And so the reason they integrated black people was not because they wanted you to come in as business owners and controllers of capital and captains of industry. They needed employees for their businesses so their businesses could grow, so they could build wealth for their family. You build no wealth. You get a nice fancy office and a job title and enough money to get by, but you're not actually building wealth when you work for other people for the rest of your life. They needed consumers to buy all their products. That's why it's not a coincidence that black people are the number one consumer base in the country. We'll buy anything. Especially if a rapper tells us to buy it, we'll buy it because a rapper. They've done these studies. These studies are out there. Nielsen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Nielsen wrote a whole study about it. It was literally white people writing a study for other white people saying black people will buy anything because they listen to celebrities. They literally said this. They said they are more influenced by celebrities than any other group of people. So if you're selling laundry detergent, toothpaste, sneakers, or overpriced headphones, whatever it is, just get a celebrity to say that they will use the product, and black people will do it too. And then what they were really saying is that these people just don't know who they are. Because they don't know who they are, they look to entertainers to tell them who they are. So how many people do you see out here that dress like their favorite rapper or follow celebrities more than they follow their own life, know more about Cardi B than they know about their own damn kids? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, right? The other reason they integrated you is not just because they need more workers and more consumers. Also, if you're talking about the landlord class, we need renters. Like, if you own buildings, you need people that are willing to pay rent to live in those buildings. And so for many of us, we're raised in an environment where we grow up, we go find a job, we buy nice stuff because we got our nice job now with all the student loan debt, and then we'll just rent an apartment for our entire life and buy a house for our landlord. Literally, if your landlord takes all the money you pay in rent over a 20-year period, they can buy a very nice house with that. So ultimately, capitalism, it's a horse and jockey system because the jockeys benefit from the labor of the horse. So you have to be educated to say, I'm not going to be your horse. Right? I'm not going to be your renter. I'm going to be an owner of property. I'm not going to be your consumer. I'm going to be a producer so I can get paid too. I'm not just going to be your worker. I want to be the boss. Right? If you think that way, then integration is a wonderful thing if you come in with a partnership. But integration is not a wonderful thing if you come in as a subordinate. We came in as subordinates, and we have to change that mentality because it's not just on them, right? They're taking care of their people, right? They saw an opportunity. It's really on us to say, what are we going to do to deviate from that process?
That's true. That's it.
This has been fun. I got it all out. Go ahead.
Overall, I'm sorry. I'm just saying I like the fact that overall we're starting to talk about these things. I feel like it can only lead to something great. The fact that we're all kind of seeing through the BS and we're focused on, solutions. And, I just think this cancel culture has to stop. We have to come together and unite like every other race does, and I don't even think a lot of us realize that conditioning has happened. I think if you want to talk about white supremacy at all, you have to think about why are we so conditioned to turn against each other? Because I don't think that was started by us, if you get what I'm saying.
I hope it'll happen where we'll be able to actually like put our differences aside and come together. But I don't even know if I see it happening in my lifetime because we're just so divided as a people, and it's sad. We have like a minute. We have like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, we have 2 minutes. So any like last final questions? We'll post this live. Make sure to like it. Thank you so much for coming and doing this with us. We really appreciate you.
Same here.
Everything you've been saying this year has been so spot on. We just really appreciate it.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the invitation, and I have a lot of respect for what you're doing. And I'm going to say that I think we have a lot of reason to be very optimistic. When you think about unity, there's never going to be a day where where all 40 million black people are thinking alike. And that day really shouldn't come because there's a beauty in diversity anyway, right? As long as we're not trying to kill each other, we can be very diverse. White people are very diverse. The difference is, though, that they're in a civil war. They really are battling each other and destroying each other, and that's going to destroy America. But I believe black people are not just because we're special and we're just damn good at everything. We have it in our DNA. I believe that you're going to see this become the best century that we've had in a very long time. I think you're going to see us elevate into owners and builders and billionaires and everything else. I think there's a lot of reason to be very optimistic, and it's because of people like yourselves, right? Like that's what, like, talking to you is exactly why people like me talk, because I'm hoping that people like you are listening, so that, as time goes on, and I'm older than you, right? So at some point I'll just sit back and be like, okay, I lost my feed. I think we were done. All right. Well, I'll see you guys later. So take care and have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.